They put you in your trailer, they do your hair and makeup, and I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of like, meditating, all ready. And then they come in and they're like, we're really sorry, but you're not going to get to pitch today. Oh my God. I still get asked about this all the time. What was it like to be on Shark Tank? So today I'm going to tell you my Shark Tank story. I am not going to hold back. I am going to share all the gory details. I think my contract is long gone. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so I was on season 5, episode 28. I think you can go to like Amazon Prime to watch it if you never saw it. And then I also filmed Beyond the Tank after, a couple years later or something. So I think it was just one of those crazy experiences. I would not want to do it again. Sometimes I can't believe like I actually did that. I can't believe I got up and went out there. I just remember the producers telling me, we do not stop filming. So if you go out there and you pee your pants, we don't stop filming, and anything is fair game to edit into your clip if your clip gets made. So anyway, that is like the thing that stuck with me is basically once they push you, no, they don't push you, but once they push you out into the stage in front of the sharks, it is just game on. Those sharks are trying to throw you off. And it's pretty intense. And for me, it's all of a blur for the most part, now looking back. But I'm glad I did it. It was so worth it. Man, you cannot beat the exposure to the marketing opportunity is insane. So anyway, if we back up a little bit, how I got on the show is when I first closed my round of funding, my seed round of funding for my wine company, I was like off to the races, ready to, go. And at this time, and this was in 2010, I think, right? So it's such a different world now. It's crazy, but there was only one bottler at the time that would take us. Alcohol is super regulated. You can't just bottle anything anywhere. You have to have a certain license to do bubbly, a certain license to do a certain percentage of alcohol. You have to have certain equipment. So all these things were not normal things that normal wineries have. My product was lighter in alcohol, so that changed the type of license that you need. It had bubbles in it. That changed the type of license that you need. So, and all the equipment as well, right? So anyway, and then the bottle type to accommodate bubbles and not have bubbles and blah, 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 blah. So long story short, there was only one bottler who would take us, and they happened to be in the Midwest. Little did I know that they were basically on the edge of going out of business. And about 6 months after we bottled with them, I believe they were out of business. So basically, I went there. We had all of our, everything shipped there. So excited, ready to bottle the first things. They're coming off the line. And I'm like, what is that in the bottle? Like, what the heck is floating in there? There's stuff floating in there. It's supposed to be clear. There shouldn't be anything floating in there. Turns out they did not properly clean the lines after bottling a Bloody Mary mix. And there was freaking tomato floating in my wine. So that was the first issue. The second issue, we're there. This is not fun, right? And investors come down. They're like, what the hell is going on? Troubleshooting, trying to figure it out. Then we finally get it bottled and we start shipping cases and the caps are leaking. Could not believe it. I mean, this is as like devastating as it gets, right? When you have worked your ass off, killed yourself, put everything on the line to raise money, to launch this product that you believe in, like to your core, and then you finally get your product and you can't ship it. So I'm sitting there. We had a cool little office thing and sitting with cases and cases and cases of wine that we could not ship. I mean, this was devastating. And I was like, I am not sure what to do. It was one of the toughest points of my career for sure. One of the most challenging, like, mental things I had to push through and overcome. At that point, I started doing, a lot of yoga. I got into things like, I remember reading a book called The Sedona Method that helped me out a ton. It's basically like releasing, just negative crap that's happening and not letting that cloud you. And I was like, I just got to figure this out. There's no way around it. I just have to figure it out. And I had an advisor in San Diego, Tim, awesome guy. And I met him, I think, for lunch or breakfast. And he's like, you got to go on Shark Tank. You got to go on Shark Tank. And I was like, I am not going on that show. Like, in my head, I'm just like, no way. There's no way I am going on that show. And he kept bugging me. And finally, I think I met him for that next coffee or lunch or whatever. And he's like, have you applied? Have you applied? And I went back. I was like, oh my God, I have to apply, because if I meet up with him again and I still haven't applied, he's going to like kill me. So just to be able to say I applied. So sent in my application. It's a long ass application. I don't know. It was like pages and pages and pages. And I'd have to go back and look at the exact details, but sure enough, months later, I get a call or email, whatever it was. And they're like, hey, you made it to whatever approval. We'd like you to send in a video. So the next step is, now this is, almost 15 years ago. Right now, it's probably part of the process up front to send a video. But I had to do a whole video on, my pitch and blah, blah, blah. And at this point, I was already pretty polished pitching because, again, I had pitched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of investors to raise the first round of funding that I needed to launch my product, right? So I was pretty dialed with pitching. But Shark Tank is a different thing. It's like TV, right? And I remember talking to one of the producers and she said, it's 50% business and it's 50% entertainment. And I was like, okay, I gotta play into that. I gotta play into the entertainment side of it. This is more than, just a business pitch. Like, especially all these sharks, they don't need any of these businesses, right? They're all doing fine. So it's, they're there to help entrepreneurs, and there's the TV side of it and ratings and all of that, right? So I was like, okay, I got to tell my story. And I got to really figure out how to make this compelling, not only to the sharks, but to basically America, right? So I worked on that a lot. I really dug into, how can I make my story compelling? How can I make it relatable? And honestly, I think it was pretty relatable because I didn't have this big fancy background. I didn't already have tons of money or tons of sales. Like, I was really very much that like underdog who was getting out there on Shark Tank, right? So I think that in itself is somewhat relatable. And that's like what producers, they look for those kinds of stories a little bit. So anyway, I sent in the video, sure enough, and made it to the next round. And got through to, I'm trying to remember the timing, but basically got to the point where, they were like, okay, here's your filming day. And I think that might have moved a couple times even. And let me back up super quick. So leading up to the actual film day, I woke up at 4 a.m. every day for weeks watching every past episode and taking notes. And like, this is a little insight into who I am, right? I go overboard. Like, I'm just like deep research mode. That is like one of the things I love doing, right? And it's served me well, I think. I think it's worth doing. But I woke up at 4 a.m. I watched every single episode. I took notes. I wrote down every question those sharks asked. And I really was like determined to be prepared going in there. I invited people over that I didn't know and just said, fire questions at me. Just keep firing questions, firing questions. And I did have a friend who had been on the show already. So she did kind of give me the heads up that they are firing questions at you all at the same time. So I did have that insight going into it that, they are firing questions at you all at the same time, right? And that was actually really great information to have. So I was practicing like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I must have rehearsed that pitch 1,000 times. I don't know, but it was crazy how much I practiced, right? So then they give me my pitch date and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Get my outfit. I'm like, okay, I got this. I can do this. I get up there, drive up to LA. They put you in your trailer. They do your hair and makeup. And I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of like, meditating, all ready. And then they come in and they're like, we're really sorry, but you're not going to get to pitch today. Oh my God. Seriously? Like heart sinking moment to hear that. I mean, think of the prep, right? Going into this months. I mean, probably 8 months at least. Again, I'd have to look back, but this was a long time prepping for this. And then they say, sorry, you're not going to get to pitch. And then they said, we don't know if you'll get to come back. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't quite know that was a possibility, I don't think. So it was really a bummer. I was just like, whoa, that sucks. I put so much into this, right? To not even just get it off your chest. It's one thing if you go in and you don't get a deal. Hey, at least I tried. But to put all that into it and not even like get a chance to go out there just felt like so defeating. So I went back home and I was like, okay, whatever, got to figure it out, got to keep moving. And during this time too, I should say, like I got into Whole Foods. This was a huge motivator for me to have more traction in my business before I got out there in front of the sharks. So after pitching to Whole Foods 3 different times, getting rejected the first 2 times, I got into Whole Foods. That was like a huge win to get in front of the sharks, right? So a few days later, I'm at home, phone rings. The producer calls. She's like, there's a 50-50 chance you'll get to pitch tomorrow. Do you want to come up? And I'm like, I'll be there. Yeah, hello. Of course, I will be there. So next day, get up, got my outfit on. I drive up there. Keep in mind, this is the last day of pitching for the season. So this is the last day that they are doing any pitches for all of season 5, right? Any filming for it. So I get up there, I'm in my trailer. And at this point, I was just I think it actually worked out well looking back, because if my attitude was, if I get out there, I am just so thankful for this opportunity that I'm just going to have fun with it. I am not even going to worry. I am not stressed. I am just so thankful to get this opportunity again. And I am just going to try to enjoy this incredible life experience and do the best I can. And just, the sharks know nothing about you before you go out there. Like even your little name on your dressing room trailer, they all have fake names on them. So the sharks assistants, they can't come around and Google your name ahead of time. So I think that's pretty cool. Like the show's legit. They know nothing about you before you go out there, right? So anyway, I am sitting there and finally they come in and they're like, okay, we're ready for you. I was the second to last person to pitch for season 5. So, I mean, it was so close to not happening. It wasn't even funny. Now, the only time I had been out on the stage was once. I was there for like a rehearsal, I think the first time. And they do have you just walk out to this one mark that you're supposed to stand on the stage, and then walk back. And that's it. So other than that, they don't really have you like check the area out, so I hadn't really spent much time out there. So all of a sudden, you're standing there. I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm ready. And I get out there, you walk out, the lights are super bright, the sharks are all there, they know nothing about you. I do my pitch, And sure enough, they all start just, firing questions at you at the same time, bickering with each other. I mean, they are trying to throw you off big time. And so one of the things that I did in preparation for this is remembering that the producer told me it's 50% entertainment and 50% business. A guy that I was working with at the time who was on the Food Network, awesome, hilarious writer. He's like, oh, you got to have some sound bites. You got to have some sound bites. So I had these little sound bites he wrote for me ahead of time before going out there. And one of them was like, maybe I'm a mini Sharkette. And, oh gosh, I can't remember. Anyway, they're like, if you see the episode, you'll recognize these like little perfect bites. And he's like, the editors love that. They'll make it makes their job easier. Like they'll totally love that. So I go out there, I have my little sound bites, and sure enough, I found a spot to work all of them in. And I think I was out there for like an hour and 15 minutes. I thought I wasn't going to get a deal at this point. I mean, Mark Damon's like, you need way more money, blah, blah, blah. And ended up getting the deal with Mark Cuban, which was amazing. He's awesome. Can't say enough good things about the guy, like in it for the right reasons, incredible human, right? Wish he would run for president. Please, Mark, run for president. But anyway, got the deal and you walk off and you're just like, whoa, that was crazy. Get in your car and drive home. And that's it. So totally trippy experience. You have no idea when it's going to air after that. Sometimes they don't air. Now, because I got the deal, chances of it airing were probably higher, but I do have a friend who went on the show and her episode didn't air, which totally sucks. So I went back, and it's one of those just like, wow, did that really happen? That's crazy. And I think it was the next day or 2 days later, I get a call from a woman who works on his team, and she's like, hi, okay, blah, 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 blah. And we just dove right into it. I want to say it was like a month of due diligence on their part. So they're going through my numbers, they're checking, just make sure you're legit, right? The producers can only do so much up front. So Mark's team does this like whole due diligence period, like combing through every aspect of your business, making sure you're legit, making sure everything you said is true, is true. And then we finally closed the deal. And so the structure of the deal, because I had this like unbelievable, hiccup is a nice way to put it, honestly, with the bottler and all of the leaky caps and all of that. Because all of that happened and I already had, money I'd raised, I had structured the first round of seed money as convertible notes. So essentially what that is you're not determining a valuation up front. And when you do raise the next round and you determine the valuation of the next round, your convertible note holders get that share price at a discount. So that's their advantage to investing early, is they're going to get a little bit of a discount on the next round that's raised on that share price. So that's how I did the first round. And so because I didn't have a valuation with my convertible note round, when I went out to go on Shark Tank, I had to choose a valuation, right? You kind of have to basically just to offer up the percentage in the show. And I had no sales. So I literally went on Shark Tank with no sales. I had Whole Foods lined up. I was going to go into Whole Foods. I don't think I had actually delivered to any Whole Foods. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I had delivered to a couple, but I mean, it was like nothing, right? And so I had to choose a valuation. And again, this was kind of a Hail Mary. I mean, it was going to be really hard to raise money after I raised that first round and didn't have a product. And I needed to raise more money to then go and produce product and ship it, right? So all of the money that I was going to use on Shark Tank was basically going to be used for inventory. And then after that, I was kind of counting at that point on the show, giving me a marketing boost. So I went on to the show asking for like nothing. It was $150,000 for 35% of the company, which is like nothing, right? But again, with Mark Cuban, you are getting, and Shark Tank, you're getting so much more than 150,000. And honestly, I probably wasn't going to get much better of a valuation if I had gone to traditional investors that didn't have Shark Tank and all that because of what had happened with all our inventory. So again, this was a little bit of a Hail Mary. All my existing investors were on board. They thought it was a good opportunity. They were totally in. They signed off on, offering up the 35%. And so it was crazy. It was like one of those, am I doing the right thing? I have no idea, but feels like the right thing. I think, given all options, this is worth giving a shot. So gave 35% to Mark Cuban. And it was, he did so much more than money, right? And I got to laugh because I think given his net worth, $150,000 was like me investing like a quarter at the time. You know what I mean? It was like absolutely nothing. So we produced more inventory. At that point, I found a new bottler. Now that I was going on Shark Tank, I found, of course, it was much easier to find another bottler who had rejected us before, was now willing to take us on and bottle for us. So found a new bottler in California, Northern California. They produced our first run. I think it was almost a year before my episode actually aired. So we had a lot of time to like prep inventory, find that bottler, get everything dialed. We started sourcing like an aluminum bottle, all this stuff. And then the show aired. Mark's team, they managed our website. They made sure we had enough bandwidth. He was helping with our financials. They were helping on operations. He's got a whole team of people. I think at that point he had something like, 75, Shark Tank companies. I'm sure he has tons now. But he did way, way, way more than just provide money. Now, where things didn't work out was because I was alcohol, things like he really wanted to put on QVC, couldn't get it on QVC because the only way you can sell alcohol and ship alcohol online there is to produce it in that state. I think it's Pennsylvania. You have to produce it there in order to ship it there. And then it was like, well, that's not even an option. There was no bottler there. So QVC, I couldn't take advantage of that opportunity. Target end caps. He was like, we got an opportunity to put it on the end cap at Target. But because it was alcohol at that time, we couldn't participate in that, marketing promo that they were doing is like with all the Mark Cuban companies. There were quite a few of those where because it was alcohol, I couldn't take advantage of these opportunities Mark was like just throwing our way, right? So that was definitely a bummer. I think it would have been another story if it was a non-alcohol product for sure. So from there, the episode aired. We had a little party. It was fun. I did not get to see the episode until the night when it's on TV. So you have no idea if it's going to come across like you're a total a-hole or if you're going to come across like, yay, go her. Fortunately, I got what I think, what they call a good edit. I think a lot of times, like, it's like anything. If the producers are rooting for you, like they want to show you in a good light. If you go out there and you're a total jerk, like they probably don't feel, inclined to help you out. So anyway, the show aired. We got like crazy traffic and sales and sales and sales. And I just remember, I think it was like my body basically just gave out. And I was so sick the next day. And the orders just kept coming in and coming in and coming in. I was like laying on the couch, sick as a dog, and just watching like email, orders coming in. It was crazy. So that was super fun. It was an incredible, marketing injection into the company. And it was so much fun. And I was getting crazy phone calls, from like film producers, about the product and celebrity stuff and all this stuff. And I will say, the one downside that is real is when you have that many opportunities coming at you all at once, it's hard to focus, right? And I didn't have a huge team and we were spread super, super thin. And I think we were trying to do too many things at once. So that was definitely a downside. And one of those things, looking back, I would have done differently. I think I would have just focused on online sales, but online for alcohol then was different than it is now. I was really pushing for wholesale as well as online, and wholesale retail is super expensive. Even with the Shark Tank exposure, you've got to pay the distributors 30%. The retailer is anywhere from 20 to 40%. Then you've got to pay for, promotional fees, tastings. I mean, it's extremely difficult to reach profitability in alcohol, even with all of that. So Damon John, you're right. We needed a lot more money. But anyway, it was an awesome experience. I have no regrets. Again, I cannot say enough good things about the show and about Mark Cuban. It totally changed my life, changed my career, and it was like one of the funnest things I've ever done. So cheers to that.